Today, we are cracking open a real forgotten blockbuster. This is a novel from 1895 that had a premise so wild, so audacious, that it became an absolute literary sensation in its day. We are, of course, talking about Marie Corelli's The Sorrows of Satan.
Right, so forget everything you think you know about the devil. The fire, the brimstone, the whole pitchfork routine. This novel asks a much more interesting and, honestly, a much more chilling question. What if the Prince of Darkness wasn't some mustache-twirling villain, but a tragic, beautiful, impossibly weary figure who is just profoundly bored by us? That's the Gothic philosophical heart of this story. A tempter who finds absolutely no challenge in his work because humanity is just so predictably corrupt.
And believe me, this idea wasn't some weird fringe concept. No, it absolutely captured the public imagination. The Sorrows of Satan was a phenomenon. It was the very first book in England to sell over 50,000 copies right out of the gate. I mean, it blew past literary giants of the time, guys like Rudyard Kipling and H.G. Wells. It just struck this deep, resonant nerve in Victorian society, a society that was obsessed with new money, with social climbing, and terrified that its own moral foundations were basically crumbling to dust.
So, to really get a handle on the temptation, we first have to understand the person being tempted. And that brings us to our protagonist, Geoffrey Tempest. He's a brilliant writer, but he's completely broke, wasting away in a tiny London apartment, and he is just utterly convinced that the world has chewed him up and spit him out.
This quote, this just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly captures where Geoffrey is mentally. He is swimming in this bitter, acidic resentment. He sees himself as a true genius, a man with something important to say, but he feels like the world only values one thing: cash. You know, in his mind, a murderer gets more respect. At least he's fed and has a roof over his head. This is the kind of fertile ground where desperation is just waiting for a seed to be planted. It's a pride so deeply wounded, it's ready to make a deal with absolutely anyone. You have to picture his world. It's all shadows and isolation. It's a place where ambition has just curdled into pure cynicism. See, Geoffrey's done everything right. He's worked hard, he's used his gifts, and what does he have to show for it? Hunger and total obscurity. So he starts to believe that money isn't just a tool, it is the only thing that can validate his genius. It's the one thing that will lift him up where he belongs. And, well, that belief is about to be put to the ultimate test. And right on cue, just as Geoffrey hits rock bottom, just as he's on the absolute brink of despair, his life is changed forever by the arrival of a mysterious, impossibly wealthy, and unbelievably charismatic stranger. A letter arrives first, a formal introduction to a certain Prince Lucio Ximenez. He's presented as the absolute epitome of sophistication. He's descended from ancient royalty, he's a poet, a musician, a world traveler. Honestly, he is everything Geoffrey desperately wants to be: cultured, powerful, and respected. On the surface, he seems like the perfect heaven-sent benefactor. But then he starts talking. And underneath all that charm, Lucio's worldview is just chilling. He doesn't see humanity as noble or striving. No, he sees us as a collection of lonely, self-loathing souls just hiding in our own little prisons. He talks about the gaunt and murderous monster that people keep locked away inside. You realize pretty quickly this isn't just cynicism. This is a cosmic, almost detached diagnosis from someone who has seen this play out 1,000,000 times before. And then comes the offer. Lucio reveals that some distant relative Geoffrey never knew has died, leaving him an absolutely immense fortune. We're talking millions of pounds. And just like that, there it is, the classic Faustian bargain. Geoffrey is handed everything he has ever dreamed of, on a silver platter. The only price, it seems, is keeping company with this very enigmatic prince. And the philosophical clash between them is immediate. It's just black and white. Geoffrey is totally naive. He thinks his new money is going to amplify his art and his principles. Lucio just kind of smiles this weary smile and tells him the reality of the situation. When money comes in, God goes out and the devil walks right in. When Geoffrey boasts that his book is going to elevate people, Lucio coldly advises him that if he actually wants it to be a success, he needs to make it as indecent as possible. See, Geoffrey thinks he can have both money and integrity. Lucio knows better. He knows you always have to choose. Well, Geoffrey makes his choice. He takes the money, of course.
And with Prince Lucio as his guide, he dives headfirst into the high society he used to hate, only to find out that it's even more hollow and more corrupt than he ever could have possibly imagined.
I mean, the transformation is just stark. It's a perfect before and after. The idealistic, principled artist, gone. He's replaced by a cynical, famous millionaire. The man who was scorned by society is now its envied darling. He literally becomes everything he once claimed to hate, and the really shocking part is how quickly it all happens.
And Lucio himself just loves to point out the absurdity of it all. He's constantly reminding Joffrey that nothing fundamental about him has changed except for the number in his bank account. His intellect is the same, his character is the same, but now, because of money, he's suddenly a personage. What Lucio is demonstrating again and again is that society's respect isn't earned by merit. It's just purchased. And what a world it is that he buys his way into. Through Lucio's eyes, we see the complete moral bankruptcy of the upper class. He shows Joffrey aristocrats who will do literally anything for money. He introduces him to ladies who think virtue is just some quaint, old-fashioned idea. It's a world where ancient family names are sold off to the highest bidder, a world driven by the pettiest, most selfish motives imaginable. Lucio looks at London and sees a city so corrupt that it's ripe for punishment, and you get the sense he takes this grim, detached satisfaction in showing Joffrey every single sordid detail.
Okay, so this is where the novel really pivots. This is where it reveals its true tragic heart. Because you see, the story isn't actually about Joffrey's fall from grace. That's just the setup. The real story is about his tempter's profound, eternal despair.
And here you start to see the sheer scale of Lucio's disappointment. He looks at all of creation, this matchless creation as he calls it, and he sees perfection everywhere he looks, except for us. Humanity is the one flaw, the one jarring, ugly note in an otherwise divine symphony. This isn't the gloating of a triumphant demon. This is the sad lament of a being cursed with a cosmic perspective. And right here, his mask of cool, cynical detachment finally cracks. This outburst reveals his personal agony. You see, his damnation, his exile from heaven, is directly tied to our choices. Every single time someone like Joffrey so easily, so predictably chooses wealth over virtue, Lucio gets dragged right back down with them. The gates of his own potential redemption are barred once more. His eternal torment is being bound to our weakness.
So this is the whole point. This is the key. The title, The Sorrows of Satan, refers to his eternal boredom. His sorrow is a kind of cosmic ennui. He's doomed to offer these temptations, but humanity is so predictably weak, so easily corrupted by the simplest offers of fame and fortune that it's not even a real contest. He's this all-powerful being trapped in a rigged game that he can't possibly lose, and because he can't lose, he can never truly win his freedom. The Sorrows of Satan was a sensation back in 1895 because it held up this incredibly dark mirror to a society that was grappling with materialism and the decay of its traditional values. But what's really amazing is that its central critique feels surprisingly, and maybe a little unnervingly, modern. So the novel leaves us with this haunting question. If our world itself values wealth more than worth and fame more than integrity, does Satan even really need to show up anymore? Or have we just created a system where we're constantly tempting ourselves over and over again? It's a question that is just as relevant today as it was over 100 years ago.